What's up, everybody? I'm Stephanie Raffelock with my co-host David Yakir, and you are listening to Yak About Today, a place to hear conversations, gain insights, and perspectives from the mouths of baby boomers. That's us. So if the years 46 to 64 mean something to you, then this is the place you want to be. So put on your headphones, go for a walk, and listen to what we yak about today. Hey, David.
Hey, Steph. I love the way you did the opening. That's so great.
That was so much fun.
You know, it's so interesting to, when you do something over and over and over again, and you think it's yours, and all of a sudden somebody else does it, you go, wow. First of all, I like it.
It's good.
And second, it makes the show a little more important,
Aww.
knowing that there's you opening it. So I'm really thrilled. We have a good show today. I think it's sort of serious at the beginning and the end, I think. But the middle is the part we always have the fun on. So you're going to handle currents today.
Yes.
So
you know what? And life is like that. It's kind of serious at the beginning and serious at the end. And the fun stuff happens in between.
That's right. I want the fun stuff to last a little longer.
Yeah, I think we all do right now. We're ready for that. Well, current events today, currents is actually kind of an uplifting thing because twice in this last week, the Supreme Court ruled in such a way as to care about fairness and equality for a lot of different people. And I loved that. I loved it that Title VII, which was, I think, from the 1970s, said that you couldn't discriminate against people in a workplace. And now the Supreme Court has expanded that, saying you can't fire somebody for being gay or having a certain sexual orientation. Off the table. I love that. And then the thing that happened this morning was DACA. Now, I believe that the Dreamers should be allowed to get citizenship here. And I also know that we need immigration reform. But two things are possible at one time. And the Dreamers today got a reprieve. So they're going to be able to register again, and hopefully sometime in the next year, 2, 3, Congress will move forward with legislation that gives the Dreamers citizenship. So I think that is an uplifting current event from a conservative court, what's going on. And I think that the justices got it right. And what they did was they interpreted the law. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. Of course, one of those mean something big for me. I'm now too old to get fired. So now I would get fired for ageism, which is what we'll talk about at the end. But I think it's important. But I think you're right. Just from the perspective of the Supreme Court and the makeup of the court and the expectations of Donald and all the conservatives, for them to have come out with what I suspect all liberals, all progressives, thinking are great rulings, and of course the conservatives, or especially Donald Trump, is going to go after the court, that type of thing. But just the idea of it in this environment, beyond the subjects, the fact that a court exists that we had given up to being able to do anything we consider right. And so I'm astonished. And, I was talking to a few of my younger friends who are in the workforce, who are very protective of their outside way of life. They don't bring it into the workplace, mostly because of fear. And things have changed in the workplace. So I don't think even before this ruling, there was that much to fear, or at least on the coast, or in the more progressive cities around the country. You didn't really fear for losing your job if somebody found out. But in the less progressive areas of the country, that was a fear that people had, that they still hid in 2020, their outside lifestyle. In fact, their life, even outside the office, they were so afraid to be found out that they had to hide, much in the same way that we had to hide back in the late 60s and early 70s. And as far
Right.
as DACA, that one was always bewildering to me, how everybody didn't get on board with that one. These are people who were brought here as children, who were as American as anybody else walking this country, who grew up here, who are contributing, who, by the way, have a lower crime rate than those people who were natively born here. So that's an extraordinary ruling also.
And who have served in our military.
That's right, even more important. And that's, that used to be so important to the conservative part of our country. It used to mean something that you actually served in the military, and currently, because you have a president who got out of serving because of bone spurs, and you have the head of a Senate like Mitch McConnell, who I think got out with a sinus condition and didn't serve. Those things were killers in the past, especially with the conservative population. And now, apparently, serving your country is not as important in your future as it used to be. So that's why I think you've really picked a great topic, and it is a monumental moment. It would have been monumental in any type of government we had, whether it was a democratic government or not. It would have been monumental. It is totally shocking, surprising in the Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell administration.
Well, here's what's interesting, though, about the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court technically is not supposed to be partisan.
Right.
They're not voting along party lines. And I think that what happened in their broadened interpretation of Title VII and with DACA is that they really played close attention to the law. Right. And the law has no red or blue or left or right to it. And the whole DACA thing was, hey, we were willing to hear the arguments, but you really didn't bring us an argument that was legally viable.
Right.
So that was the ruling. And that gave me hope that I really hate the way that we've become so divided in this country, that it's about, my side winning and your side losing. There was a time in my younger days when there were a lot of conservatives that I listened to, that I liked.
Absolutely, me too.
Olympia Snowe, John McCain. I mean, these were people that made me go, and honestly, to some degree, Lindsey Graham, that made me go, that's an interesting point of view. And it always kept things kind of balanced, But now it's so your camp and my camp, and one person is right and one person is wrong, and that's it. And I just don't think this country is going to heal until we start coming together unified. And that's part of what the Supreme Court gave us this week, too, was that this is how the court is supposed to function. And they did their job, and they did it well. And it really wasn't for them, I don't think, about right and left. It was about the interpretation of the law and what the law means. And I say, good on them. It gave me hope.
And gives you hope around the country because, the courts are packed now with young conservatives. I believe over 200 have been appointed. Mm-hmm. And is it possible that those conservatives will act in a way that is nonpartisan and not partial?
I'm hopeful.
All right. We're going to take a break now for our sponsor and all our great advertisers who actually believe in this show. So we'll be back in a bit.
I want to take a moment to talk to you about New Vision Eye Center. For the last couple of years, they've been a sponsor of this show, and I couldn't be prouder. I've met so many people that have walked up to me and thanked me for recommending them. I hear all sorts of stories about how they've worked miracles. And as you know, I've been a patient of New Vision Eye Center for years. So when I say go see Dr. Minotti, Reinauer, Tate, and O'Brien, it's because I wouldn't trust my eyes to anyone else.
Okay, we are back. I'm David Yakir with
I'm Stephanie Raffelock.
Oh, I forgot you were going to introduce yourself.
I was going to introduce myself.
It's so funny. You probably do it when you interview people. You always go, hi. When you come back from a break, you go, hi, I'm Stephanie Raffelock. You're listening to So I'm with so-and-so. You forget that there's another person at the other end. I'm getting used to it. I'm going to be a good co-host. I promise. I'm going to really work on it.
I know you are. I know you are. You're a good friend, so I know you're a good co-host.
So now for the year.
Yeah.
So we picked 1972. And, for the listeners, so far we've picked 1969, 1963. And today we're going to talk about 1972. And I'm going to start it I picked out about, 4 things that give you a perspective of 1972. They could be important or not, but it puts things in the right context. It was an important year, and you'll see why. First of all, the little things, like gas was 35 cents. 35 cents a gallon. And the Ford Pinto, the car that ended up blowing up all the time?
Right.
That was $2,000 to buy a car. $2,000. And by the way, a new house, the average cost of a new house was $27,000.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Okay, 2 big ones. There was a lot of things in 72. 2 big ones. 11 Israeli athletes were murdered by Arab gunmen. It was the big Munich Olympics massacre. It was also the beginning of Watergate. 5 White House operatives are arrested for burglarizing the offices of the Democratic National Convention, which started the whole Watergate scandal. Sorry, I'm going through all these papers all over my desk. And there was one more, or maybe there wasn't. No, those are the 4 things that I picked out just so people can remember, what the times were like, how they spent money, the big events, that type of thing. And of course, Mark Spitz, he won 7 gold medals as a swimmer.
I remember that.
Right? All right.
A moment of pride.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, and that happened, when I said earlier that happened with during the Munich Olympics. And the fact that the Olympics actually went on after that massacre was amazing. Anyway, just a couple of reminiscences. That was the year that I actually graduated the University of Tampa in Tampa, Florida in 1972. And then really enjoying a beach town. My mother came to graduation, as a Jewish mother would, and I handed her my diploma. And I never informed you. When I graduated high school, I had no intention of going to college. I thought it was a waste. I thought I should start my life early, be a success early. Anyway, Jewish mother, went to college. So after the awarding of your bachelor's, we're at the party. And my mother, I said, well, Mom, are you happy? I got my college degree. She goes, oh, no, this isn't the end. This is only the beginning. I expect you to go all the way through. So I said, okay, if that's what she wants. So I applied to the University of California at Santa Barbara, which juts out into the ocean. I said, okay, I'll go there. So I went to the university, and that was, I think because I was a certain immature person, college was what high school was for many people. People think about their reunions. They have a tendency to think about their high school reunion. When I think of reunions, I actually think about college in that way, but graduate school was the big, explosive David Yakir. I hope my more conservative audience doesn't get annoyed. That's when you sat around, you smoked joints, and you're sitting there talking Nietzsche, Ludwig Wittgenstein, giving your profound opinions. You dropped that hallucinogenic every once in a while, and you just knew there wasn't a bigger intellect on the planet than what was going through my mind right now. And then, of course, after Santa Barbara, life happened. But that's my memory of that whole environment. Oh, and the thing that happened that was a big thing. Patty Hearst was at one point hiding in Isla Vista in Santa Barbara. Isla Vista was where we lived outside of the campus. So that caused a big stir all over campus. So that's sort of my memory. It's actually my favorite. It's that highlight of that whole period, as opposed to college, the graduate school was, and all my good friends. So that's me, 1972.
1972, I was 20 years old. I wasn't quite legal yet. But I lived in Los Angeles in those days, and I would make the trek from Los Angeles to San Francisco. I was fascinated by Marin County. Marin County was gorgeous. Wasn't all built up yet. And you could actually get in your car and drive, and it took you like seven and a half hours to get from LA to San Francisco. There was very little traffic. San Francisco was a wonderful music scene in those days. And I always like to talk about the music because that was just kind of what was going on for me. let's see, what else? The 18-year-old had just gotten the vote like a year or two before that. And so I had voted in my first election before that. I hadn't thought about that stuff because I was also smoking the funny weed in those years. I mean, it was the time.
That's right.
And, with total strangers sometimes.
That's right.
It was a more innocent time. It was a time of idealism. And I hope that kids today still have that sense of idealism. I think it's harder in this world. In those days, I was putting a backpack on and I was trekking through the Sierras, and life seemed open, wide open with possibility. I don't know if young people see the world in quite that same way. I think about the young kids in my neighborhood now that graduated from high school this year, and there was no graduation.
Right.
They had a sign on their front lawn that said 2020 graduate. That was it. That was the celebration, little family celebrations and all that. And I don't know what it will be like for them. The world feels like it's contracted in some ways. And in other ways, the world feels like there's great hope and there is great possibility. But I saw it from such different eyes back then. I was reading Ram Dass, Be Here Now. I was backpacking in the Sierras. The 18-year-old had the vote, which I thought was a great thing. And I was making that wonderful drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco. So that was my 1972.
Why didn't you stop in Santa Barbara? We could have had a good time back then.
If I'd only known.
All right.
But I do know that campus, and not only that campus, but there is a community college.
That's right.
In Santa Barbara that has to be one of the most beautiful pieces of property I've ever seen. Santa Barbara Community College, it still juts out over the ocean.
That's right.
The most amazing views from various classrooms. Just an absolutely gorgeous place. And I had my first hot tub experience in Santa Barbara back in the days when the hot tubs were, they were wine vats. They weren't slick hot tubs yet. They were wine vats.
So let me see here. So the last section I was going to do was on ageism. The difficulty we have is for the radio audience, because I have a tendency to talk nonstop. We're hitting that time where I don't think I can start, but let me prepare people for next week on the topic of ageism. I'll handle that. And just to give you a preview, we suffer, our society, our age group, the baby boomers, are suffering in this world of ageism where people younger than us, millennial, do not believe we have capabilities. A lot of shrinks right now are working with us to deal with that fact. But I've looked around and I understand ageism. I understand the perspective. And next week, we're going to talk about it. Okay, so, God, that really flew by, didn't it?
Yeah. Tell me something good. Before we go, tell me something good.
So, as you know, our society is opening up, particularly where you are, particularly where I am. And even though this will sound bad, the fact that our numbers are going up in a bad way because the society is open. My understanding here that many businesses and many shops are really understanding this, and they want to open, and they're really taking the precautions. They are putting up shields. They are wearing masks. They are, so you sort of get the feeling that if you take care of yourself and you wear a mask, that there are businesses that you can frequent where there is less risk of contracting this disease. So bad turned into good. Okay, I did that.
That's very good.
All right. So let's say goodbye. I just wanted to tell everybody, my co-host has a wonderful book out, and I want everybody to buy it. Go ahead, Steph, really quick.
Okay, my book is called A Delightful Little Book on Aging. Look for it in bookstores and look for it on Amazon. And the something good I'm going to tell you is there are all kinds of masks now that will match what you're wearing. So get one or two.
I know, they've really become a designer, a fashion statement. I find that I put on the N95 mask. I don't know if you've worn them. That's a killer. That's the one that fogs up your glasses. So when you're shopping in the supermarket and you're wearing this tight N95 and you're just learning to breathe through it, I'd rather get these fashionable things that just cover your face and all that. Anyway, I've talked too long again. Goodbye, my dear. And we'll see you next
my
week,
dear. It's always
if not
great
before.
seeing you.
Same here.
All right.
And to everybody else out there, thanks for listening to Yak About Today. And you'll hear a whole bunch of stuff on how to reach us in a minute.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get...
As we come to the close of another week of Yak About Today, I want to thank you again for listening. Remember, you can go to yakabouttoday.com to listen to any of our shows, or if you are new here and listening to one of the podcast networks that carry us, consider subscribing. And remember, you can write to us at david@yakabouttoday.com, or follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Yak About Today. I'm David Yakir, and I hope that we can chat next time. Same place, anytime you're free to listen. Peace.
And when you finish doing that, bring in the dog and put out the cat. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Raffelock, the co-host of Yak About Today, and I wanted to take a moment to tell you about my new book. It's called A Delightful Little Book on Aging. It's available on Amazon and lots of other places too. Here's something about the book. All around us, older women flourish in industry, entertainment, and politics. Do they know something we don't, or are they just trying to figure it out too? So many of us feel in our hearts and minds that we are still 20-something young women who can take on the world. But every day we have to rise above the creaky joints and achy knees just to move through the world with a modicum of grace. Yet we do rise because it's a privilege to grow old, and every single day is a gift. This book is an invitation to celebrate whatever age you are with a sense of joy and purpose and a spirit of gratitude. Thanks for listening. I hope you'll check out my book. And remember to tune in to Yak About Today.